Okay, I've already filmed this video once. It was unfocused, so hopefully you guys can see me today. Say hello. Say hello. Guess what? Pixel, what are you doing? Oh, he just loves his mama. My hair is so staticky. We'll just address this first. I chopped all of my hair off. It was literally like down to my waist long, and I just chopped it off. It's definitely grown a little bit since, because it used to be like just a little bit higher, but because hair grows, I don't know what to do with it. I'm still learning. Maybe we'll put it on this side. I don't know. What side do you guys like it? That side? Or that side? I don't know. We'll keep it on this side. We'll keep it this side for now. But that's besides the point. Hello everybody, welcome back to Izzy and Things. Of course, it's been like a month since I put up a video. It has been a long live long day since I have uploaded a video. Hence why I am here today, filming a video for you. Oh, it was 2 months ago! Okay, so I haven't put up a video in 2 months. That's cool. That makes me feel like I haven't done anything in a while. Today, we are going to be talking about, well, not really talking about, I'm just going to bring you on this journey with me of fixing my hip. And you guys are probably thinking like, WTF, WTF, oh my god. WTF, Izzy, like, what do you mean you're getting your hip fixed? Like, you're still young, kind of. Like, what are you talking about? I guess I'll just give you guys a little bit of a backstory. In case you were new here, hi, I'm Izzy. Welcome to my channel. I used to be a professional dancer, now retired. It's a funny word, retired from professional dancing. But yeah, I danced professionally for about 2 or 3 years and danced previously that like 6 years. So I'd only been dancing for like 10, 11 years, if even, I don't even know. It wasn't very long. I'll just put it that way. I didn't dance very long for what I did. But, so yeah, I danced. And there's this thing in dance, if you're not a dancer, where you like turn out in like first position, all that kind of stuff. And teachers always tell you like don't force your turnout. So like they don't tell you to like force that turnout from like your hips or your knees. And bone structure wise, my hips, like the way that they are built, are set very straight forward. Like it is very hard for me to do anything to the side because of how straightforward they are. And in dance they prefer, almost, I wouldn't say prefer, but it's always a lot nicer when your like hip structure is set more outward than it is straightforward. So I did a lot of forcing my turnout. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it. But yep, I danced and forced my turnout a lot, and then my first year dancing professionally, I was dropped by my partner on my hip. It wasn't very far, but I feel like any injury to the hip or any fall to your hip is not good. I was dropped out of a like cartwheel. I was upside down, and then he had to put me back down and just kind of threw me, and I couldn't catch my footing because, you know, I'm upside down, and landed on my right hip, this one here. Was not fun. Couldn't do arabesque at all. I could barely do a tendu back. I took ice baths, which were not fun. I hate ice baths. And then my second year there, we were rehearsing Carmen, and in the studio we were rehearsing, there had been, like, they like rent the space out to like other people to use because we're not using each studio space all the time at certain times of the day. So there had been high school kids in this studio, and we told them multiple times, do not wear your street shoes in the studio because it can really screw up the marley and make it very, very slick from bringing all the dirt in. They didn't listen, so we went in there to rehearse, and I came up on point into a passe, and my shoe slipped out from underneath me and landed on the same right hip. Again, not fun. Not fun at all. I couldn't do tendu back still. Barely. I mean, I could force an Arabesque if I took like 6 ibuprofen. Which don't do. That's not good for your body to take 6 ibuprofen. But that's kind of how I think all of this happened. And you know, since, I mean, even like from that first fall that I had about 3 or 4 years ago, my hips or my right hip it's never felt the same since then. And it's always kind of ached just a little bit, and if I sit too long, it'll hurt. If my hips aren't aligned, if I sit like this way, or even just even sit with my hips back, it really screws up my hip. It does not do fun things, and it's been going like that for about 2 or 3 years now. I've had this kind of ongoing hip pain, and since I stopped dancing, I think a year and a half ago, it's progressively gotten much worse, it has been really, really hard having it get worse because it just makes me feel like an old fart. I mean, I think it's like a consistent aching pain, no matter what. I don't think I've had a day where it does not ache since at least my last fall that I had on my hip, which is about 2 years, a year ago, 2 years ago? I can't remember. I don't know. A couple of times I've gotten up from like the couch or from sitting at the dinner table and have had like a sharp pain deep inside my hip, and I've kind of been like, oh shit, and then just kind of like walked around a little bit. I can barely walk. I kind of have to bend over to walk a little bit when it hurts like that, but it eventually stops within like 10-15 minutes or so. And then one of the last times, I mean, this was kind of like the last straw for my husband, when we were playing computer games, you know, as usual, because I am in love with my desktop computer. I got up to use the bathroom. The simplest thing. I just got up to use the bathroom. That's all I wanted. And as soon as I stood up, I had like this sharp pain immediately, like into the ball, like the socket of my hip joint. I had it going down all of the muscles on the inner thigh of my right leg and shooting up the right side of my back, about to like where my bra line starts. And I could not move. It felt like I felt paralyzed. I was like, if I move at all, my leg could detach from my body. Like, I was afraid like my hip was just gonna fall out of its socket, and then what do you do at that point? But I had to have my husband literally like drag me to the bathroom and sit me down because I physically could not do it. And that has happened about 3 or 4 times since then, and that was only about 4 months ago that happened. So this has been 4 months in the process of getting to the point where I am now. That thing looks really weird. I called a doctor because my health insurance is so, like, I don't even know. Since I got my new health insurance, for a year and a half, I have not had a routine checkup. I have not had like a family doctor person, just like a basic general doctor. I had not made an appointment to see one. I scheduled for like just a clinic that's like 2 blocks away from my apartment because, you know, it's the closest, and, you know, it'd be really convenient to just walk 2 blocks to my doctor. So I scheduled an appointment, and I went, and I was like, okay, well, my hip's kind of freaking out. They're like, well, what, how did you do this? And I was like, well, I was dancing. I was a professional dancer. And they like freak out. It was kind of awkward because that's all they talked about the entire appointment. And I guess I don't feel like they really listened to what I was saying. You know, being like, sometimes I can't walk with this hip problem I have. So can we just skip the professional dancer part and actually talk about what's going on with me right now? They sent me next door to their urgent care center, and they only took one x-ray just of my whole hips, and charged me $60 for it, which was like, you guys. And then they told me they would call me about the x-rays in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks passed, I hear nothing. So I call them, and I get put on hold for like half an hour and then I get disconnected. And this happened for about 2 months. Me trying to get a hold of them to being like, okay, well, you said you were going to call about my x-ray, and no one ever got back to me. And it got to the point where I had to physically go into their office and be like, okay, I was supposed to get my x-ray results like 2.5 months ago. And you know what? Can I have them please? And they were like, sure. And they look kind of like frantic about it. Like, I don't think anyone's ever come in and been pissed that they, you know, didn't have their x-ray results. But it's like, I can't let this go on any further because of the problems I'm having with daily basic daily activities I'm having problems with. So they scrambled and printed out like a piece of paper. Didn't know what any of it said, but it's like, yeah, you're fine. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, we looked at your x-ray and it's clear. And I'm like, why could you not tell me that 2.5 months ago? So I decided not to go back to that doctor and I went somewhere different. It's about 5-10 minute drive, which really isn't that bad. And you know, I kind of had to re-explain the whole thing. And this lady is like the greatest. I mean, she's like, oh, professional dancer, that's cool. And had me do like all of these like balance tests and things like that. And one of the things, I think I should probably put this in earlier, but I pop my hips, you know, like knuckle popping. It's not like that high-pitched frequency. It's more of like a deep, much lower frequency kind of. I don't even know how to explain it. It's not a great sound. It really is not. And I would pop my hips about 10 to 15 times a day. Because if I didn't, they would hurt. Yeah, not fun. And I told her I was doing that and she's like, that doesn't sound very good, so maybe you should not do that. And I was like, okay, I'll try. I mean, it's like in my everyday life, so I'm really gonna try not to do that. And she said by how I was describing, they were going to do a couple more x-rays on me because they had like a little x-ray place right next door. And they took like 5 x-rays on me, like all from different sides just to be sure, because I said I went to this other place and they only took 1 and I didn't hear back from them for 2.5 months and I need this problem to be fixed. She said that she would send me over to x-rays next door, and then she was also going to refer me to a sports medicine lady that's in town, has worked with like the local sports teams and like the professional sports teams and everything. Get me situated there because she didn't feel like she could help me as best as this other lady could, which I really appreciated. And she said she'd put in the referral for me and they would someone would get back to me within a week. So I went and did my x-rays, got back home, and literally about 5 minutes after I was home, I got the call to schedule an appointment with the sports med lady. And I was like, what? Like, that fast? Like, I am used to having to go through TRICARE referrals, which can take anywhere from a week to a month to go through. That is what I'm used to. So I'm like, oh my God, that was so fast. And her earliest appointment wasn't until like a month later. So it's like, okay, I'll just schedule the first opening you have on a Thursday since that's my day off. So I waited a month, traveled. I think that was when I went on my honeymoon, was in that space. In case you don't know, Ryan and I went to the Dota 2 Internationals for our honeymoon. Most of you will not know what that is. It's an esports thing, like electronic sports. It was dope. Like, oh my God, I want to go again next year. So I went to my appointment. I almost got lost. There was construction literally all around the entire building. So I was like, am I in the right place? Like, help. But I made it in time. There were some really nice people that helped me get there, and it was like up somewhere kind of like in this corner. It was kind of weird. They saw me and they're like, okay, well, there's something funny looking on your x-ray that we noticed. So we're actually going to, what is it called? I'm trying to remember what this contrast was called. But they ordered an arthrogram for me. And if you don't know what an arthrogram is, it is when they do like the basic MRI, but they inject dye into your joint so they can see a lot more around it. Even just thinking about it makes me lightheaded and kind of makes me nauseous. They ordered the arthrogram for me. I think it was another month out was the earliest appointment they had. So I was like, okay, I'll just take it. Just get me scheduled. So I went in to do my arthrogram. I got there like 45 minutes early and everyone's like, oh my God, did they tell you the wrong time? And I was like, no. They took me in, they kind of sat me down while they tried to get everything ready to go. And I got my gowns on and then we went into this room and this is when they needed to inject the dye. And I hate needles with a passion. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Ugh. It just makes me nauseous thinking about needles. So they said what they were going to do is numb up my hip and then they were going to stick this needle in and inject the dye. And I made the mistake of looking at the needle when I walked in of what it was like, what they were sticking into my leg to inject this dye. And I kid you not, it was this big. It was huge. And I was like, that is what is going into my leg. Like, so, I mean, the nurse, the guy who helped me, this nurse, was so cute. So it made it a little bit better, but I was like, I can't do the needles. I just can't. It's gross. I made the nurse hold my hand because I was so scared. So they numbed it up and that was honestly, I mean, that wasn't like the worst part. I think it was feeling the needle like actually go into, like deep into my hip. Like I swear it hit a bone was like the worst. So I just kind of laid there afterwards, took deep breaths, tried to calm myself down. And then they said, okay, we're gonna like have you stand up and just be really careful to not put too much weight on that leg because once the dye gets in there, they said, what did they tell me? They told me it can make your hip or your joint feel really full. And I didn't really understand what they were talking about when they said that like your hip's gonna feel full. And I was like, what? Like, what? What do you mean full? Like, full I ate too much food full? Like, what? But no, I stood up and it felt like a balloon was in my hip. It was the weirdest freaking feeling. Like, it felt full and it felt very like bottom heavy. And I don't know, it was weird. It was really weird. And I felt like I had to walk with my legs like this far apart out. It was the weirdest freaking thing. And as soon as I started walking, I got so lightheaded and nauseous and I was just like, I just need to sit down for a little bit. So they sat me back down in my room where I got changed and I was like, oh my God, like what is happening? About like 5 minutes later, they came back in and walked me very slowly to the MRI machine because they're like, are you okay? Like, do you need to use the bathroom? And I was like, I think I'm okay. I just gotta walk really slow. I don't do well with needles at all. I just don't. They stuck me in the MRI machine like all the way, which I am not used to. And I always ask for like the warm blankies, and then I always listen to classical music when I, because I've had several MRIs done. And I just kind of snuggled up like a little toasty cinnamon bun and fell asleep like I always do. And I was in there for like an hour and a half. I don't know if like something malfunctioned or maybe I twitched and they had to like redo the whole thing. But I was in that machine for an hour and a half and I was like, good God, that was a long time. So they told me like, okay, well you can just go get dressed and go home now and someone will contact you about the results within the next couple of days. So I was like, okay. And I hobbled over because my dad drove me because I knew if I drove it would probably be a bad idea with me and needles. And went to work and I could barely walk. Like it felt like, I don't know, it just felt like my leg and my hip were like this far apart, like the ball and socket. And I was like, what is going on? It was so trippy. And I felt like I wasn't stable enough to walk, but luckily at my business, I found a prop cane that's like freaking ancient. So I was hobbling around with a prop cane and everyone's like, what is wrong with this lady? I went and I think it was that same day I went and sat and ate my lunch. And while I was eating my lunch, I got a call from my doctor because they're on top of shit. I couldn't really understand all of the gibberish he said because there was a lot of like medical terms, but the one thing I picked up was labral tear. I have a tear in my hip joint, hip socket thing. Basically, so here's your hip socket, right? And around the entire like hip socket is like this squishy kind of rubbery stuff that works as a suction cup and holds your hip. Basically holds it in the socket. So every time I was popping my hip, I was popping it out of that suction and eventually caused a big rip. And I'll insert the picture here of what exactly a labral tear looks like. And they said it's very frontal, more like, let's say, okay, here's your leg and here's your hip. No, yeah, your leg, hip. Mine is very much like on the outside, but like on the inside. I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but they said it's not the worst tear you could have, but because it's been there for so long, like no wonder you're in so much pain because, you know, your hip may or may not be dangling out of your hip socket sometimes. But they told me, we're gonna send you to physical therapy first, see if that helps, and if it doesn't, we'll refer you to a surgeon. So I made an appointment to go to physical therapy. My appointment was like about a week ago or so. Or the first one was. That was actually just a couple days ago. I don't know when this video is going up, so by now I could have probably had 3 appointments. I don't know. But I went to this first appointment. Super easy to find. Everyone there was so nice. The guy who I actually or like my grandma sees for her foot problems and physical therapy and stuff like that. So I went and I was telling them about it, and I half expected me to come in and try to do something and it hurt, and them being like, well, you're fucked up. I went and kind of explained things and, you know, how I used to work compared to how I work now, and, you know, it would be nice to get back into dancing recreationally, like nothing serious. Point work would definitely be nice to keep, you know, my bones strong, and he agreed with that that's the point that we should work towards. No way in shape or form am I going to try to go professional again. I am done with that. Don't even ask those questions. Don't do it. But yep, so we just worked on some of that. He did a lot of like stress tests, but they're and like pressure tests and things like that, trying to see where the weakness is in my leg. And one of the things we discovered was I have almost the exact same pain, like in rotation on my focus please. I have the exact same problem or like pain rotating on my right hip as I do on my left hip. So I can almost guarantee you that I have a labral tear also on my left hip. So I may or may not have 2 labral tears. Yeah, we're just gonna have to deal with one hip at a time. They tried doing like a pressure, I'd say pressure release. They like pulled my leg away from my body to see if they could relieve some of the pain. And it worked for like 5 minutes when I was laying down, but as soon as I stood up and started walking around, I was like, I felt like I had to stick my butt out and like lean forward to like move functionally. Like it was not good. So my next appointment, that appointment was Thursday, and they want to see me twice a week. So my next appointment is going to be this Tuesday. And hopefully we'll find something else that works better. I don't know, but everyone there is super nice. Yeah, so I just thought I'd take you guys with me on this journey. So this will be, I guess, my first physical therapy update on my labral tear. That's what you get when your partner drops you and you force your turn out. Because it's a bunch of like from overusing like one joint so much, and like right now it is aching pretty bad. I've been trying not to take as much ibuprofen or like Advil, things like that, because I wouldn't say like I was addicted to it, but I definitely could say that I used ibuprofen at least twice a day when I danced. And I'm trying to like give my body a break from that because I really know it's not good for you. But it's really nice too, the appointments for physical therapy, because they're early enough in the morning where I can still go to work afterwards. It does hurt a little bit afterwards, but it's nothing, like, it passes after a period of time. So yeah. Oh, it's the kids outside rolling around on their scooters. She let me know if you could hear that. But yeah, you should give this video a thumbs up. If this thing will focus again. You can focus. But yep, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. You can comment down below. I don't know. Comment anything down below. Just don't be mean. This is a nice place. This is a happy place. Yeah. Click subscribe here if you're on like desktop, and I think the subscribe button is like over here. It's on this side if you're on mobile. It's really weird. It like switches. I don't know why. They used to be up here, which was really nice because you'd be like, hey, subscribe, and then now they're like, hey, guess what? There's one here, so whatever. But yep, I guess I'll just see you guys in the next video. Bye!